We have a 2003 Toyota Camry LE having a little shimming problem when you hit the brakes. We found out that the bushing, the rear bushing of the lower control arm needs to be replaced. Well, with these cars, you can buy the whole lower control arm for a cheap price. This is the new control arm. This one is for the right side of the car. It comes with a with all new bushings and a brand new ball joint and nut. We're gonna need a 22mm socket, a 19mm socket, a breaker bar, and a box wrench. 19 on one side. That's the only side we'll be using. And to do this job, you loosen this bolt, which we already have loosened, right? And this 22mm on this side for the front part of the control arm. There's two 22s, but we cannot reach the second 22 because it is behind the transmission mount. So using the 19mm socket, we have to remove the top nut and the bottom nut. Then we can extract this mount so we can reach the other 22mm bolt. This is one of the 22mm bolts that we have to loosen on the front of the control arm, and the other one is behind here. We'll show you that when we remove the mount. Okay, I decided to use a ratchet wrench on this, so it makes the job easier than using a regular 19mm wrench. This is the top nut for the transmission mount. But make sure you put the transmission mount on the jack, the transmission casing on the jack, and jack that up in order to hold the transmission up when you remove the mount. I already loosened the bottom one, and now we're going to jack the trans out and remove the mount. Okay, using a screwdriver, you're going to remove that cap right there, and inside of that hole will be a 17mm nut that I have already loosened, right? And the second one is up in this hole I've already removed, and that will enable you to move the bracket, the mount for the transmission. All right. The nut that I just took off from the bottom is located below this point. Okay, that's the bottom of the bracket.
Okay, sit.
And the other one is on the other side. On this side over here. To allow proper clearance for the mount to come out, right? Because it's hitting up against the bracket up here. After jacking it up, couldn't get the car high enough to pull the mount up. So we had to go under the hood and loosen the bolt on the other transmission mount so the engine and transmission assembly will rise up a little more. And the bolt is located right here. This is the bolt head for the front mount for the transmission assembly. Loosen that. You don't need to take it all the way off. Just loosen this a little, and then you should be able to pull that bracket out. Now we have proper clearance to pull this bracket out of the way. Then we can reach the other 22mm bolt. Okay, now I'm going to extract this bolt. both bolts out. Prior to this, I've loosened the 3 nut bolt that holds their ball joint on to make it easier to get this bolt, which locks the ball joint into the spindle. I will extract the bolt from the back of the control arm, and then the arm should be able to come right out. I don't know if you can see it, but there's cracks all along here, right, where the rubber is separating from the metal housing. This one is not that bad, but the customer could feel those shimming when he braked. To remove the ball joint, I could have done this with the control arm already on it, the old control arm on. Problem was I couldn't get to the cotter pin to extract it, so I loosened these 3 nuts, removed the control arm, then I was able to extract the cotter pin, right, and then loosen this nut. Now you can after loosening the nut, you can either use a fork if you have one to separate the ball joint from the spindle, or you can use a baby sledge and beat on this point right here, and that will jar that loose. Once it's loose, remove the nut. Ball joint will fall out. And it's all good. It's good that we went with the whole complete unit, because as you can see, this ball joint is very loose. It's not bad, but it's very loose. It should be very tight. I will show you on the new one that you can hardly move it. Okay, this is the new ball joint. I have to apply a lot of force to move it around. Okay?